Hey guys, today we're just talking about a bit of a deck building concept. So, one of the notable things about Kashtiras is that they have some weird oddities to them. So, the first one I want to mention is Fenrir. For some reason, Fenrir, despite being a card that's relatively new, so what is this, like 2022 release, I think? Kashtira Fenrir, for some reason, does not say except Kashtira Fenrir on it. Why? So typically with cards that search and stuff to stop looping and whatnot, typically cards will say accept itself, like, and this is just on a myriad of cards, right? So Thinner is one of the cases where it's not. So for some reason, for example, Mitsu the Insect Ninja will say right here, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you target one face down defense position monster you control, change it to face up defense position. And if you do, change this card to face down defense position. Then if the targeted monster was a ninja monster, and it should honestly stop here, then it should negate that opponent's activated effect, right? But no, it says except for Mitsu the Insect Ninja for some reason. So if you flip over Mitsu the Insect Ninja, you cannot negate your opponent's card effect. I mean, you still get to flip the Mitsu, but you end up flipping um the Mitsu over here face down and flipping your other one face up. That's literally all you can do if you just control one face down Mitsu and one face up Mitsu. Like, why? The effect to negate is already hard once per turn, so why? Makes no sense. And then you have like Hanzo, who just doesn't have a hard once per turn at all because why not? And then we have Tobari here. Tobari, like, it doesn't name drop itself. I mean, it shouldn't matter too much, I guess. So speaking of Hanzo, actually, let me go ahead and look at Hanzo real quick. This also says except for Ninja Grandmaster Hanzo. So, when this card is flipped or special summoned, you can add a ninja monster from your deck to your hand, but you cannot add Hanzo because no, you you don't get to add Hanzo, right? Even though this is relatively harder to just do, and it's not nearly as free as Fenrir. No, you in fact will not be able to search Hanzo with Hanzo, but you can search Fenrir with Fenrir, despite Fenrir being, a free special summon having like a removal effect as well. It can search itself, and that does a whole lot, like just in general. So of course, like when you special summon Fenrir, it costs you nothing to do. It just requires your field to be empty, which it probably will be if you just randomly open Fenrir in hand. And then you get the other Fenrir out of your deck, so it doesn't brick you, and you can even just discard it for cost of something, just something in general, which is just dumb in terms of card advantage. So let's just go simply with Labyrinth, for example. So once I remember how to spell Labyrinth, okay. So Labyrinth, okay. So for example, we have Chandragler here. You can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard and discard one card. So if I special summon Fenrir, right? I can then add Fenrir, and then I can Chandragler discard the Fenrir I just added, and I still have this Fenrir on field. So how much material did I just trade away there if you think about it logically? So this is just one body I get for absolutely free, so it cost me nothing, and then I have same amount of cards as I did like at the start of this turn because I added another copy of Fenrir. And then it has removal on it, so this is worth essentially like 3 cards or around there, right? So if we just consider a card that just special summons itself and does nothing, I'd consider that as like 1 card, right? If a card special summons itself and then just adds 1 dude, that'd be like 2 cards. So I'm just thinking kind of in terms of like where the cards are swinging, right? So like, yeah, that's kind of how it goes, right? And then Chandraglir basically discards a card that just shouldn't exist, like a phantom card, if you will. This Fenrir that you shouldn't even be able to add. And of course, you want to add more copies of Fenrir technically because Fenrir just goes completely even in this way. And it's just a free body and like a free piece of interaction that's decent either going first or second. So, what the hell is up with this card? Hmm. So that was a bit of a tangent, I guess. So it's just like how they made this card is just a little bit degenerate. I mean, if it was a little bit less degenerate, I'd be a little bit less upset, I guess. It's proportional. But anyways, now we're just focusing on the fact that there are two cards in Kashtira that do not have hard once per turns, exactly. So I guess this has a hard once per turn on the special summon a Kashtira monster from your deck with Kashtira Shankar Era. But the other effect, the Zone Lock effect, is not hard once per turn. It is not once per turn. It is not once per chain. It is whenever this triggers, it will happen, essentially. And also, I guess the effect to protect itself is also not hard once per turn, so that's cool, I guess. But anyways, this card not that important for our purposes today. So instead, we are focusing solely on Kishtira Ariseheart, which has something pretty interesting about it. So once per turn, you can also XYZ summon Kashtira Ariseheart by using one Kashtira monster you control if an effective Kashtira Shankar Era was successfully activated this turn. So this is truly once per turn, like truly hard once per turn, even though it only says once per turn here. Because of it being a summoning condition, so if you summon this on top of just a Kashtira monster you control, using only one material and not using the full three, level 7 monsters, then Kashtira Ariseheart with one material happens, and you can't do this again. So let's assume we have like Shangri-Era and Riseheart. We trigger Shangri-Era with Riseheart, then we can't just summon on top of a Riseheart like 3 times. Like summon a Riseheart on top of Riseheart, summon a Riseheart on top of a Riseheart, and then a Riseheart on top of a Riseheart. That's not doable because it's just once per turn here. So this is a legit hard once per turn. If an effect, okay. So transfer its materials to this card. Any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So this is just a continuous effect. And then there's once per chain each time a card is banished. Attach one banished card to this card as material. So this is obviously not hard once per turn. This just happens whenever a card is banished, more or less. So then there's this as well. Once per turn, quick effect, you can detach the materials from this card, then target one card on the field. Banish it face down. So, notably, this is not hard once per turn either. This is soft once per turn. So, in theory, Ariseheart can set up a loop. So, the most interesting, noticeable way I could find is using Mizuki and Zombie World. So, if we go ahead and pull up Zombie World. So, yep. So, Zombie World's effect is all monsters on the field and in the graveyards become zombie monsters. Neither player contributes summon monsters except for zombie monsters, which is generally not a relevant effect. Nice. So, if we have Zombie Worlds on the field, it doesn't particularly affect Ariseheart. But if you were to be able to summon 2 copies of Ariseheart at some point in time, something interesting actually happens. So, uh, particularly with the fact that Ariseheart, first off, when it does this effect here, once per chain each time a card is banished, attach one banished card to this card as material. This just says any banished card, so it can be a face down card, including the ones that Ariseheart itself banishes. Intriguing. So, the Macrocosmos effect, as well, is only active if Ariseheart is technically on the field. Very intriguing. So if you go ahead and go out of your way to set this up, if we have Zombie World, Mizuki, and who really cares what we have in the graveyard? It's just probably something that does something, essentially. I don't know how else you would phrase it, But with Ariseheart here, if we were to, for example, activate Mizuki effect to special summon, Mizuki would firstly banish itself, and that would trigger Ariseheart's effect to attach, so we can then attach Mizuki, who is clearly also lacking a hard once per turn, to attach onto our copy of Kashtira Ariseheart. Then we would special summon a guy, it doesn't really matter who. There's a lot of cards that would benefit from being summoned, so we would summon a guy, and then Ariseheart would attach it, our copy of Mizuki, and then we can use another Mizuki, do the same, and then boom. All of a sudden, what do you know? We have 3 copies of Mizuki on, on the field, kind of, attached to Ariseheart. So of course, if we were to detach the Mizuki as material here, with Ariseheart, this would just simply banish the 3 Mizuki, and that would not be useful. But what if we could still link summon? Then we link off Ariseheart with one of the, I don't know, 3 bodies we just put on board with Mizuki's effect to special summon a zombie monster in the graveyard with. And then boom, Ariseheart is now in the graveyard. Now, what does that mean? That means our 3 copies of Mizuki are once again back in the graveyard. And in fact, now we can even do Mizuki to special summon back Ariseheart. And if we do so, Ariseheart is back online, and we have 2 more copies of Mizuki. And then we can do this again, and we can probably put something into the graveyard for Ariseheart if we wish. And then do it again, and again. And after a certain point, if we manage to, for example, set up 2 copies of Ariseheart, then we can start potentially doing more. So let's say we have more than 3 materials on Ariseheart. Then what if I were to detach some of those materials, and then I were to target Ariseheart itself to banish itself? But I have a copy of like Ariseheart attached to Ariseheart, and then like Mizuki, so then I can attach the banish face down Ariseheart back to this new copy of Ariseheart, and then bring back Ariseheart and do a bit of a loopity loop, you know? So that is essentially the idea. The setup, I'm not completely sure, nor the process, but in theory, this is not, like, it does not seem impossible. And that's about all that matters. So, this only requires a Ariseheart technically to be at 1 to somewhat do. I don't think it's like an infinite loop, but if we had 2, I'm pretty certain there would be a way to do some form of infinite loop. And maybe that's just all you need sometimes, you know? But I mean, at some point, it's just easier to just, I don't know, loop Necroface or something, and then just banish all of your opponent's cards, and then just call it a day. So, yeah. Kashtira has some looping potential because of this, and there might be, like, different loops that you could do, but I mean, at the very least, you can do some looping with Necroface to an extent, like Necroface, banish, and then Ariseheart, detaching Necroface, attaching Necroface, and that's a degenerate loop, but not quite an infinite loop, I guess. So Necroface gives more material back to Ariseheart, and then if you have another copy of Ariseheart, you can like attach more Necroface, and this could lead to deck outs. So that's interesting in that way, I suppose. I don't think there are any, like, super good banish cards to play with Ariseheart and maybe Necroface, considering you'll brick yourself, like, pretty damn hard. If you were to play Thunder Dragon, you're already locked out of fusions anyway, so probably not gonna work out that well. So, yeah. That's about all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.